to get away with. Asian elephants especially get...
Oh my god.
I didn't see that coming.
I didn't either.
Oh, wow.
She didn't either. Hey everyone, top 10 animals with Black Air Force energy. Have you guys seen it? Because we haven't.
All right, let's jump into it. Oh. Oh. Okay.
Dude.
Well, damn.
Black Air Force energy. Good old Urban Dictionary defines it as a person or an object that has insane potential and is crazy enough to deal with anything without fear or hesitation, regardless of moral alignment, including its own rivals or competitors. And despite clearly taking grammar lessons from NBA YoungBoy, I'd say whoever wrote that was pretty on point. It's a term I use a lot in my videos without really explaining exactly what it is. So here's a full list of the top 10 animals with the most Black Air Force energy. Some animals are an obvious pick, others might just surprise you. But they've all earned their spot, including the animal at number 10, which might have the least clout of any animal on this list, but that's only because it's found one place in the world. Because if this bird were airdropped across the globe, it'd definitely be more known for all the wrong reasons. Starting off is what happens when an animal is too smart for everyone else's quality of life. The Kia is a large parrot that can be found terrorizing the people of New Zealand. And don't let it fool you, this Black Air Force with a Grinch colorway is an op in every way. They're highly intelligent and armed with a hook-shaped beak, which is the perfect tool for Kias to inflate insurance by picking apart cars. You see, the Kia is smart enough to associate people and the cars we drive with food, which is why this anti-mechanic is famous for committing the cutest carjackings you'll ever see. Of course, they don't just stop at cars. This feather felon will go through purses, backpacks, duffel bags, and swipe anything they can fly away with. There was even a case where this airborne pirate stole the passport of a Scottish man that didn't want to be identified. Because no one wants to be remembered for getting denied from your home country because you got your passport pickpocketed by a panhandling parrot. It happened to him and it can happen to you, but guess what? If you happen to get your wallet snatched and try to see the Kia about it, be prepared to also eat a several $1,000 fine and even jail time. Kias are protected by the government because it only makes sense that something with wings would be above the law. And it's almost like every Kia knows it and acts accordingly. But it's not just humans getting griefed. Kias will regularly raid other birds' nests and make omelets with their unborn children. And they'll use that Swiss Army knife of a nose to remove parts of a living sheep to eat. And there have been reports of them victimizing dogs and even horses. But at least the Kia isn't a legitimate physical threat to people. The next animal's responsible for putting more zookeepers on workers' comp than any other animal.
I mean, that bird was fucking up a car.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
Really tearing it apart.
I've never even seen that like that bird before. That thing is crazy.
The African wilderness has some of the most ways to F around and find out per square mile in the world. So it makes sense that living in the most dangerous area codes in the world has turned the zebra into an actual psychopath. This oppressed Oreo horse has the strongest kick in the animal kingdom, strong enough for Marty to have written Alex out of the sequel. Which is why even though lions body them often, every once in a while a lion has to explain to his ancestors how he got flatlined by a high-strung equality donkey. But the generational anxiety of being constantly hunted means the zebra will often one-shot resisting too close to it. There's two reasons why you won't see a person riding a zebra. One, they're too small. And two, every zebra is fundamentally a bastard to its core. No, like literally. Because many mother zebras will actually mate with as many males as possible, because if she's showing and he suspects it's not hers, he'll violently press her until it's terminated. And if the baby's already out, that's just an invitation for him to demote her from mother to mourning. And going back to humans, zebras are infamous for allegedly putting as many zoo staff in the ER as any other animal. They may look like horses whose favorite part of a birthday is the finger painting station, but this panda pony's liable to paint the block with her insides if you breathe at them the wrong way. Treat one like a barnyard animal and negotiate your left hand. And because zebras are genetically closer to donkeys than horses, calling it the ass of Africa is a scientifically accurate title. And as the default protein of many of the landlords of the savannah, it's a title they hold with pride. Because it's the best one they
Oh my god, dude.
Wow, close call.
You didn't even know. Oh, wow.
can get. 10% off is also what you can expect if you treat this barcode horse as a petting zoo. But at least they have the excuse of constantly being plotted on. The next animal has less excuses but more disrespect.
Zebras are so interesting.
They're fascinating to look at.
They're just like, their like pattern makes no sense when it comes to just like where they are.
It's also like perfect looking.
Yeah, like cheetahs, right? Like cheetahs and leopards, like their patterns in like we always see people wearing like leopard print clothing, right?
Yeah.
And like, oh, that's just like a little extra.
Mm-hmm.
But like, it makes sense because they can use it for camouflage for the most part because they can hide in like the grass and it's not very easy.
Yeah.
But a zebra's just like black and white with like tons of black stripes all over it.
Yeah.
It's not very well hidden.
No.
But the thing kicks really hard, so I guess it's pretty fucked up.
Deer manage to cause billions of dollars in damage a year by playing freeze tag with cars, and that ironically makes them the most dangerous animal in America. But where blissful ignorance makes deer a threat, the deer of down under initiate conflict.
Bro.
9 out of 10 car accidents in Australia involve kangaroos, and a good number of them are premeditated and not by the driver. Kangaroos assault vehicles with enough
That's
regularity to
terrifying.
commit insurance fraud.
What?
I've never seen that happen before.
That
What the
actually
fuck?
kind of scared me.
You got scared?
I didn't know he was gonna jump on it.
I thought it was gonna square up again.
Oh.
Oh man, I gotta see that again.
It's fraud.
Look, I thought it was gonna square up and then boom! Oh my god.
In fact, kangaroos
Wow.
will regularly beef with inanimate objects. But it's not just a bluff. These are some brolic marsupials,
Damn.
armed with claws, but more importantly, a sharp dagger of a toenail.
Whoa.
Which is why it's not a kangaroo's punch you have to worry about, but that Jurassic pedicure disembowelment. It's what makes their sparring sessions so lethal. That and the fact that kangaroos start every day with the specific goal of inconveniencing as many life forms as possible. If you happen to fly a drone in kangaroo country, prepare to have your insurance tested. In fact, it's not a stretch to say they hate anything that flies. Can you imagine how ridiculous this could have gotten? Imagine people thinking you died paragliding when really you survived, but got mobbed by a pack of roid rabbits on impact.
Holy
Kangaroos are
shit,
number 8 because
dude.
there's really no good reason for this.
What the
You see, as dangerous as Australia is, there aren't really any dominant apex land predators. While kangaroos often contend with dingoes and the occasional wedge-tailed eagle, a full-grown kangaroo doesn't have much that can threaten it, other than a bigger kangaroo. So my working theory is,
Oh
they
my
got cocky.
goodness.
And until nature airdrops some bears
Oh,
or maybe
no.
some type of big cat, kangaroos are still gonna be out here thinking they can do whatever. Try to change their mind at your own risk. As on-site as these malicious macropods are, they're not even the most disrespectful animal in Australia. And believe me, we'll get to that.
Yo, that one above his head.
What's he doing?
This is sick, bro.
What you doing, man?
I got an itch. Give me a second. Yo, kangaroos are messed up.
The Big Five refers to the top 5 most dangerous animals to hunt in Africa. These include the elephant, the rhinoceros, the lion, the leopard, and an animal so feared it's been nicknamed Black Death. The African Cape buffalo is a walking attempted homicide case armed with a pair of horns to make most attempts successful. They have one of the highest KD ratios against humans with guns. In some
Wow.
places, these tanks with road rage and 50% of the people they go after, and a lot of that is because they will actively seek revenge. There have been stories of one buffalo murking the same hunter that took out a member of its own herd. And whether you're a lion or a hunter, these trench cows get it back in blood. And the scariest version of a Cape buffalo is one that's already been injured. Hunters have followed a mortally wounded buffalo into thick brush, only for the freight train with legs to circle back and ambush them from behind. Which is why the number 1 rule when hunting Cape buffalo, assume you only have one shot because that's usually all you get. But it's not just humans getting bodied. Bloodlusting buffalo will seek out unsupervised lion cubs and log them out of life before they can grow up to be a threat. Not like the adults aren't at risk either. Capes will stalk and circle lone lions, using the threat of gang violence to give Mufasa a roommate.
Damn.
Which is how the same apex predator that can solo multiple hyenas can get sent up a tree like a house cat. They're like the Liam Neeson of animals. Wrong them and they make their life's mission to co-sign your obituary. That first hit was self-defense. Everything after that was a personal choice. And even though experienced lions can take them down, it's still very much a gamble. Especially since they can travel in herds of hundreds. That's also how they earned the nickname Widowmaker. Because right now there's at least one woman on Tinder because her husband decided to hunt a 1-ton vibe check while the buffalo decided that would be the day he'd finally live up to his nickname. It's a murderous mammal, but like the zebra, it's often just self-defense gone way too far. Not like the antics of the next animal. If you're talking about the Black Air Force of the sky, you're probably talking about crows, or really just corvids in general. Crows are smart enough to manipulate their environment to their advantage, but they're also devious enough to manipulate other animals for their own sadistic pleasure. I don't know what that crow said to that cat, but it certainly involves someone's mother. Ravens will weaponize their relationship with wolves to call out hits on competing coyotes. Crows in Tokyo have especially become a problem where they've basically gone to war against the entire human population. But it's not just humans getting bullied. There might not be a worse time to be an owl than in broad daylight surrounded by a murder of crows. Not to mention crows will often raid the nests of other birds for a disturbingly literal kids meal. And that's why they're not just straight up snap.
Yeah, a group of crows is called a murder.
Really?
Yeah, a murder of crows.
Wow.
Yeah, not a herd, not a bunch.
A murder.
Murder.
Well, that's kind of, I mean, that's a little impressive. If your group
Yeah.
is known as a murder
Your posse.
and not like
Yeah.
a flock.
Right.
It's just like, okay.
Snatching minors in front of their parents. I think EDP just found a spirit animal. They'll regularly mob and harass other birds until they drop the food they've already caught. And crows won't hesitate to beat on much larger birds of prey, which might explain why they do the exact same thing with humans to get them to surrender whatever calories they have on them. But the avian onslaught peaks out with the Australian magpie. Now turns out they're not actually corvids. They actually sit closer to another bird with psychopath tendencies. Either way, Australian magpies manage to be the most feared thing in a country seasoned with crocs, cassowaries, and snakes. And while most wildlife is harmless as long as
I've never seen an animal that actively just like looks pissed. Like that bird right there in that photo just looks pissed.
Yeah.
respect their space, the earth is their space, and they have no patience for trespassers.
Oh, God.
To the point where many Australians have taken to wearing helmets to protect themselves from the magpies.
I've seen this video.
Especially
Oh my
during
God.
swooping season, where magpies will relentlessly attack anything that gets near their nest. Actual human lives have been lost to this goth Tweety's tantrums. And since corvids can remember faces, once you've been swooped, you can expect the same treatment next year. I think Tirzo said it best. Corvids are what would happen if you gave monkeys wings. But at least in the magpie's case, they're only a legitimate threat to a human way of life for the roughly 6 weeks of swooping season. Next animal is one of the biggest dangers to humans all year round. It was really only a matter of time before the river rhino made an appearance. Widely considered the world's deadliest mammal, you may have noticed that hippos weren't included in the Big Five, and I have to assume that's because nobody that has a desire to see the next day would actually hunt them. Arguably, no animal has a harder working PR team than the hippopotamus. First of all, it's not the goofy lardonkey it lets you think it is. A thin subcutaneous fat layer means hippos are actually walking units. And despite their awkward appearance, hippos can outpace any human over short distances, and that includes on land and in water, where they somehow become even more territorial. Hippos have been known to lower the census totals of other animals for seemingly no reason. Just when an antelope thinks it's been bailed out, the slaughter horse does origami with its spine. And even though they're supposed to be herbivores, every once in a while they'll give into the temptation of tasting the flesh of their victims. Cannibalism is not off the table. Science doesn't really know why exactly they do this, but science doesn't account for an animal just being a dick. Few predators will press this obese water pig, and those that do so at their own risk. Hippos are so carnage happy that the biggest threat to a baby hippo is a bigger, meaner bull hippo. It's how a hippo baby shower can legitimately end in a rain of flesh confetti. Now, to be fair, plenty of animals resort to infanticide. Hippos are just really mean about it. Like I said, nobody's PR team works harder. Except maybe dolphins. Which makes sense since despite resembling ungulates like warthogs and rhinos, the hippo's closest living relatives are actually cetaceans like dolphins and whales. But instead of making it out in the ocean, hippos decided to make a living griefing everything in its area code. And I didn't even mention the way they claim that area code.
Ew, ew, ew! What?
You know, if you unsubscribed right now, I wouldn't blame you. The only thing that can make this whale Karen more of a menace than it already is if it were a straight up predator, or if it hunted in packs.
Oh my God.
Then again, that would literally make it an animal further down this list. My personal bias was not going to keep the elephant off this list. As much as I love them, elephants can be a devastating combination of smart enough to do anything and big enough to get away with it. Asian elephants especially get
Oh my God.
I didn't see that coming.
I didn't either.
Oh, wow.
She didn't either.
The elephant off this list. As much as I love them, elephants can be a devastating combination
yo,
of smart
who say you can take a picture of me?
Wow! Asian elephants especially get themselves into trouble by raiding villages and emptying out their rice supply. Which is why Asian elephants are responsible for the bulk of human hashtags, especially since they can be just as vengeful as the Cape buffalo. Earlier this year, a man in Thailand had an elephant working hauling wood in the brutal heat, which is illegal. And apparently the elephant knew his rights because he proceeded to rip his boss in half. And of course, we gotta address the
What?
I'm better than that. One elephant traveled over 100 miles to murk a 70-year-old woman collecting water, only to pull up to her funeral to attack the sole evicted body, this time in front of her family. The biggest mystery of mankind is what motivated a 14 pachyderm to pack up an elderly woman twice. If he had a reason, it's not like he's gonna tell us. Elephants rank over hippos because where hippos commit war crimes in the heat of passion, when an elephant catches a body, you can almost be certain it was premeditated. And it's in populations that have been fragmented by poaching where young male elephants really fly off the handle. And bull elephants are already pretty high strung as it is, but they managed to get worse in communities decimated by poaching. To the point where 3 elephants in South Africa were responsible for deleting 63 rhinos as well as charging at people. Now to be fair, poaching typically targets
63 rhinos?
3 elephants took out 63 rhinos.
What the fuck?
Jeez.
older bulls, and research shows that without old heads around, younger male elephants go into must a lot sooner than they should. Which I get. What I don't get is why that has to involve turning a rhino from a tight end to a wideout. What you have to remember is that elephants are intelligent enough to experience every human emotion like compassion, empathy, and grief. But for every headline like this, you might get a headline like this. And if elephants wore shoes, they'd rock the biggest black Air Forces the world's ever seen. But that's only because the next animal on this list
What's a
doesn't
turtle?
have legs.
Oh no, I was really nervous that it was gonna step on it. Oh. What are we working with?
One of the biggest injustices of cinema is
Dolphins.
that where dolphins got cast as a lovable flipper, sharks got typecast as Jaws. Dolphins are the most disrespectful beings in the ocean. Makes sense because they're basically intelligent hydrodynamic hippos.
God.
They regularly bully sharks, use fish heads and live eels as marital aids, commit unprovoked acts of porpoiside, all while letting humanity think they're the good guys. They have mating practices so brutal that I probably can't even talk about them. Dolphins like to do to each other, guidelines might try to do to me. But we can't talk about dolphins without talking about the biggest dolphin of all. The orca is the most dominant apex predator on the planet that isn't human. And as if sheer size and intelligence wasn't enough, they typically hunt in pods with the coordination of a wolf pack, which is how this oppressive sea oriole regularly griefs the tankiest animals on the planet. They're such a force that great whites have been known to abandon hunting grounds for up to a year once this steroid quality guppy makes an appearance. Probably because they've been known to use the shark's biology against them to rob them of their heart and liver, just to leave the rest of the shark to sink to the abyss. And then there's the fact that orcas often practice their craft on other animals, which is why if you ever feel bad about penguins getting bullied by seals, I suggest you see what happens when a Navy SEAL joins the Air Force. And while you could chalk this up to hunting strategy, there's also the chance that living life on Roku difficulty means orcas get bored and just start trying stuff. And while it's true a wild orca has never taken out a human, that hasn't stopped them from actively messing with human vessels with disturbing regularity. It's like they know who's ruining the ocean and adjust their behavior.
Jaclyn.
What?
They've definitely killed.
I was gonna say
like, they don't act. They're not like elephants that are just like, you know, and the other cow thing that, like, hunt them, getting revenge
accordingly. Either way, orcas are the humans of the sea, and anything that steps to them gets reminded expeditiously. Even most of all things. Moral of the story: Free Willy should have been put on parole. The only thing more black Air Force than an animal that griefs everything around it would be an animal that commits atrocities against its own kind, and that's why orcas are only number 3.
Wait, what?
Ask any zookeeper what animal they fear the most. If they don't say chimps, they've never worked with one. A common misconception is that chimps are 5 times stronger than the average man. And while the number is actually closer to 1.5, chimps have more fast twitch muscles, a stronger bite force, and a stronger grip force. Their ability to use tools is fascinating to watch, until you realize that means they're able to create and use weapons. People often forget that chimpanzees are pack hunting predators able to execute attacks with the precision of early man, and that doesn't just apply to their prey. Chimps in Luongo National Park have been documenting attacking families of gorillas and murking any helpless offspring they can get their hands on. Literally no animal safe from the violent tendencies of a furious George. But it's the damage they inflict against their own kind that puts them over the top. Chimp casualties often share the same injuries: a disfigured face, missing fingers if not entire hands, and a non-consensual neutering. Chimps seem to have an understanding of what's important to an animal, and they go out of their way to remove it. It's why I can show you this picture and you'll understand. And it's why instead of organ donor, I have, if ever maimed by a chimp, just let me die on my driver's license. And it's also why you probably have a better chance of surviving being locked in a room with a lion than in a room with a furry chainsaw with thumbs. The fact that a chimp can get put 6 feet under by members of its own troop guarantees them a spot on this list. The only way an animal could beat that is if something was enough of a menace to be a legitimate threat to itself. And that's exactly what number 1 is. But before we reveal number 1, here's some honorable mentions. The Canadian goose, for having the most irrational confidence of any animal. They actually almost went extinct, and now they revolve their entire existence around punishing humanity for it. Swans. Because what geese think they are, swans always have been. Wolverines. Because they're more than capable of hunting for themselves, but they'd rather tax animals 3 times their size for a living. Meerkats. For being quite literally the most homicidal mammals on the planet. And now at number 1, to absolutely no one's surprise, the honey badger. The most unapologetically disrespectful creature on Earth. I have an entire video dedicated to the exploits of this steroid skunk. Here are some highlights. They'll regularly pinch food from leopards and then throw a tantrum if they get caught. They'll take on packs of animals that realistically should be able to one-shot them. But the Oreo weasel has plot armor in the form of crackhead courage. They'll raid the hives of African bees, the same bees that are 10 times meaner and sting 10 times more than their European cousins. And honey badgers aren't immune to bee stings. They're resistant, but enough stings will flatline a honey badger. But ask the honey badger if he cares. He won't answer, but you know the answer. These prison ferrets also run phase with highly venomous cobras. If they manage to get bitten, they'll just slip into a cobra-induced coma and then wake up hours later and walk it off like a Sunday morning hangover.
Damn!
Even the honey badger's idea of self-defense is as offensive as you can get. As in, they'll reverse their anal pouches inside out and release a smell so pungent it can allegedly paralyze attacking bees. And honestly, any animal that religiously attacks the
So it's like a very, very angry skunk.
Guess so.
baby makers of others is a different
look at that
tier.
face.
Yeah.
No other badger represented this better than Stoffel, who once escaped from his enclosure and picked a fight with a neighboring family of lions who nearly mauled him to death. After about 2 months in the hospital, the first thing the affiliated ferret did fresh out was go right back at the same lions to settle the score. And that was only one of the hundreds of times Stoffel managed to raise the blood pressure of the people around him. But here's the real kicker. Stoffel was actually hand-raised by humans at a young age and therefore imprinted on them. He had no intention of ever leaving. The whole thing was just a game to him. Because if blatant disrespect were a sport, they still wouldn't play it because anything involving rules goes against a honey badger's belief system. But that's gonna do it for this video. For more consistent content, be sure to follow my Instagram and TikTok. I try to post daily.
Wow, look at him
to
go.
further support this channel.
He was like biting at their ankles.
Yeah.
Jeez. Honey badger, I did not expect to be #1.
No. Honey badgers are a little nutty.
Yeah. I think
We're gonna have to check out that video
Yes,
on honey badgers because I need to know more about how like insane they are.
Yeah.
The fact that it like got taken out and then was like, you know, healed up.
Yeah.
And then it was like, no, I want round 2,
Yeah.
bitch. It's just like, what?
Jeez.
Damn, talk about like revenge. Like, I'm surprised a lot of these animals have like revenge like built into them. Like,
Yeah, right?
I'm gonna remember you and I'm gonna come back for you. Like the bird, he said, I don't know if this is real, but like it remembers.
Yeah.
And so the next year it'll come back and attack you if you come by
That
again.
seems crazy to me. I
Like-
don't know.
Oh, man.
Might be true.
Talk about revenge animals. Jeez.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much for watching. If you like what you saw, please subscribe. If you have any suggestions, leave them in the comments and we'll see you in the next one.
Yeah, see ya.
Bye.